to Creative Conversations with David and Donna. I'm Donna.
And I'm David.
I'm Leicester.
This is Leicester Landon. He was one of my students when I taught at Lee High School, and I have a fun story to start with. Lester and I don't remember how we met. We have talked about this, and we have tried to figure it out, and we just can't. So here's what we do know. What we do know is that when he was a sophomore in high school, I was teaching his brother, who was a senior at the time. And I know that I knew who he was, but I don't remember how I met him. So what is your first memory of how we got to talking to each other?
The first memory has to do with that first show I was in with Amy. I remember my scene partner was Amy.
Right. Mm-hmm. That was the Scandal at Hampton Estate, the first play that I wrote and got published.
Yes. And I remember I wasn't supposed to be in it because I was, I guess, a sophomore.
No, you were a junior.
I was a junior at that time. So my first memory is having a conversation about the fact that I would be doing something before my time and joining an older group doing something.
Yes. So Lester was the only junior I ever invited to my senior drama class. So sometime before he was in my class, we had to have known each other for me to know that he was as outstanding as he was, for me to ask him to be in that class. But however we met, we've had a very long and interesting and exciting conversation and relationship, I should say. So what I remember about Lester being in my class, he was a junior in a class with all seniors other than him, and we put together a play, and he got one of the main roles because he was just that good. Of course, I think kind of all the roles evened out, but he definitely stood out on stage. And then he got to be in the class the next year, which was another first, because he was in the actual senior drama play when he was a senior. So I have some fun news about something with the first play, Scandal. You remember Price?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. So Price Keene has been commenting on our YouTube, on the YouTube channel after the first podcast, and he said, "You need to do that play again. It's the 20th anniversary."
Oh, my God.
I just absolutely couldn't believe that. I'm like, that's not right. And then I was like, that was in 2000. Oh, wow. So this is the 20th year of that play, and I'm just blown away by that fact.
I wasn't born when I performed that play.
Oh, my gosh. That's wild. Also, I was thinking about this before I got over here. I remember when we met up for dinner, like right after I moved back, we discovered that I am now the age that you were when you were teaching me, which is very funny.
It is, and there's even more to that story. So when we started the school year with Lester, when he was actually a senior, one of the girls who had been in the drama program with me the whole time looked at me and said, "You can't get pregnant, because if you get pregnant, we're just going to get messed up, and we need to make sure we don't, we have a good year." So, when she told me that, I'm like, well, girl, So it turns out that around Christmas, I found out that I was pregnant, and I didn't tell anybody. I just wasn't going to ruffle her feathers or whatever. So we actually did our whole play. This was the second play that we wrote. And when we were doing our curtain calls at the end, I always say something about how it's been a great time and we worked so hard. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And by the way, I'm pregnant. And we have this on film, and all of the kids' jaws just dropped. It was the biggest surprise. And so in class, after that, I said, "Guys, y'all were born in 1983, which is the year I graduated from high school. So I am the same age difference to you as you will be to my son. And my son just graduated from high school." So all of my kids that I still keep up with on Facebook are just like, no, because they remember hearing the pregnancy story. That was just so much fun.
It's funny because I remember, too, I was thinking about this earlier, in response to y'all's first podcast, where there was the confusion about saying Donna or not, right?
Yes.
For us, it goes even, for my time, it goes even further back, because when I first started as a student with you, you were Miss Arnold.
Right.
And I remember when you changed your name to Vanos, everybody took it so personally.
Yes, they did.
Nobody wanted to call you Vanos.
I know.
We clung on to Arnold
Yes.
for dear life. It's so funny. I don't know why.
Well, that brings up the next question. So do you call me Donna?
I don't. I don't.
Well, so now you can.
No, I will.
See? Hesitating.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
So now I can actually call Lester Mr. Landon because he has followed in my footsteps, which is a huge, huge honor. But we're going to get to that later. He's a teacher now, teaching theater as well, but he had a long journey before that. So Lester and I obviously have lots to say, but we don't want to leave David out. So do you have any comments or questions?
Well, I gotta say, I also really enjoyed that year we performed that play. I was happy to be there. It was a really magical experience. Just so many great memories.
So you were watching us from the
stars,
before you came into physical form.
From the stars.
I can't believe you weren't born yet.
Isn't that nuts?
It's so funny.
It really is.
So makes me nervous. Makes me weird for
Well,
some reason.
I mean, I don't know if this is good or bad or whatever, but I don't feel older than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't realize.
I don't either.
Exactly.
I didn't realize you were that old.
Yeah.
I thought you were like when you first came to talk to our class. Because I first met Lester during my first theater class with Donna, and he came to talk to us and help us out and give us some advice. And I thought you were like, I don't know, graduated 2 years ago or something. Like, I guess that's a compliment.
But it is, and I appreciate that. But it is actually something that professionally has been something I've battled against as a growing artist,
really?
a maturing artist, desiring something more as far as material that I get to work with goes. But a lot of people don't take me seriously enough because of the way I look. Because of my.
They think that you're young, and especially when you actually were young. I'm sure that was a big battle because I feel like you probably went into that world like really ready to go, but had that fight of not giving it opportunity that you needed, all the challenges you faced with that. So that'd be great to get into later. There's so many things we're like, oh, we got to talk about that later. We got to remember to actually talk about it.
You know, an hour really isn't that much time.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll keep recording after. And have a second hour.
We'll see what happens. Just however it flows.
That's right. So let's go to after you graduated from high school. Give us your career and what things you've accomplished as an actor.
So, I'm imagining the reason that I wound up in your senior class as a junior is because I had done my first professional show when I was a sophomore in high school.
That was through Tulane?
It was actually through
Fine Palace at LSU. Okay.
So, in the world of theater, there are two different sort of levels of theater. One is a community, they would say non-professional theater, and then the other is a professional, what they would call equity theater, meaning that it's part of the Actors Equity Union and can hire professional actors and follow various laws and guidelines to protect the rights of the actors and other artists involved as well, stage management, designers. So I had done that show. It was Midsummer Night's Dream. It was a Shakespeare show, and that probably got you to think that maybe I was capable of doing such a thing, right? And earlier than that, I did work with the Shakespeare Festival of Tulane, the New Orleans Shakespeare Festival, and as an apprentice, and we did a production of Midsummer as well. So my early experience in theater was Shakespeare, and that I kept with that love, even still to today. I just did another production of Much Ado About Nothing at the New Orleans Shakespeare Festival. So I'm back there after all these years too, which is funny.
So cool.
And a lot of them had no idea. Still, I don't even bother telling people, but a lot of them have no idea that I was involved with this so long ago either, before it's anything like it was today. So that gets me to college, I guess. I was desperate to get out of Baton Rouge. I went to high school in Baton Rouge at Lehigh, obviously, with Donna, and then my mother lived in New Orleans by then, I guess, either Hammond or New Orleans. She moved around a bit. but I always sort of glorified New Orleans as a better place in my mind, and was eager to go there. So I joined University of New Orleans theater program and had a good time. Same thing happened there, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I wasn't supposed to do a show, but somebody wound up not being able to perform. Someone named Micah. It was a production of Two Gentlemen of Verona, Shakespeare, and I played Thurio, fun part, a pompous guy. And they asked me to step in there, so I wound up doing a main stage production, I guess, in my first semester. And went through a full year at University of New Orleans, and at the same time got into a lot of trouble.
This is the part I don't think I've heard, y'all.
Yeah,
So.
you really don't know any of this. It's true.
Reveal as much or as little as you feel comfortable.
Yeah. You know, I think as awful as some of the dark things are, it's important.
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey, and it's not just my journey. It's the journey that a lot of artists I know have had. Life brings different things to different people. So
yes.
I am a gay man, and I knew early on when I was in high school, for sure by then. And it was important to me to express that part of myself in the same way that I saw straight people expressing themselves through relationships and love. So it was very important to me to figure that out. So I rushed into a relationship with somebody that was much older than me.
Okay.
And it sidetracked me, and I got involved in a lot of
other activities. Yes.
And a good friend of mine who was at the time at school at LSU came to my rescue and said that I really just had to leave University of New Orleans and go to Baton Rouge. She let me know that the program at LSU was actually really good, which I couldn't imagine because it was in Baton Rouge. And at the time, there was this great collection of teachers there. I might be saying too much. Am I being too detailed?
No, please, go ahead. We want to hear.
Cut all this out if you want. So the faculty there was this awesome, it was just this wonderful kismet moment at LSU's theater faculty. It was the undergraduate program was headed by this woman named Jane Brody, who was a fiery, small woman. And she had cast the film Fargo.
Okay.
I guess she probably did local Chicago regional casting, but that's my imagination. She didn't live in LA. She came from Chicago. She's back there now. She was teaching at DePaul for a while. I don't know where she is now. So she was there. We had this wonderful movement guy, Nick Erickson, who's now the head of the MFA program there. He had been working with Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, wow.
So he had a lot of inspiring, mind-blowing sort of concepts that he had from his journey. And the head of the MFA acting program, gentleman John Dennis, who had been there for a long time, had prior worked for a major theater in Los Angeles, the Mark Taper Forum. I think he was the artistic director. I could be wrong, but he was likewise, no bullshit, really knew his stuff, and knew how to get the work out of the students.
So what did y'all do with this amazing group of directors, teachers?
Yeah, well, we had obviously the regular classes during which we were very challenged, and it brought us as a group of students all together quickly.
Right.
Broke through a lot of boundaries. And then also put on a lot of productions through the school. We were very inspired to express our creativity. They also performed.
Oh, okay.
Which is not true with a lot of places that people study, and I think it's important. But I mean, I still remember to this day this one production of You Can't Take It With You, directed by John Dennis. Jane Brody was in it, and it was just a show that taught me so much about good performing, character work, and also just how a story can really touch you, you know?
Did you stay after you graduated with your degree? I can't remember. Did you
What do
do
you
any
mean?
postgraduate work at
Oh,
LSU?
no, not at LSU.
Okay, so when you were at LSU, what I remember for sure is that you were in something about a thin line. What was the name of that play?
Oh, yeah, A Shape of Things. Neil
Okay.
Labute's A Shape of Things.
Okay, and you were the lead, and you had just entered the program, isn't that right?
That's right. It was
Okay.
another. Well, okay, so actually, I wound up my second professional production. I wound up quitting school for a semester to go back to New Orleans to do a show with another equity theater, Southern Rep. So at the time, there were two equity theaters in the state. One was Swine Palace, one was Southern Rep. So I had
Okay.
a show with them. It was Edward Albee's The Goat, or Who is Sylvia. Took a semester off to do that play. Of course, back in New Orleans. Again, I got in so much trouble.
So you have learned your lesson.
Yes, I really have. I really have now. I still cringe thinking about the facts of what really went on. It was very tacky. But I was young, you know.
It's part
Maybe
of
you
the
can offer
journey.
advice. David is getting ready
Maybe.
to enter his sophomore year as a college student.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
I actually, like, all joking aside, I do think it's like you said earlier, it's an important part of the journey, and like you said, a lot of artists go through that. I think that comes through a lot of people who are into this artistic sort of thing. Everybody needs to find themselves, but I think a lot of really creative people struggle with that maybe a little bit more of how to express all the stuff inside of them that they feel, and when some things aren't working, they take these sort of drastic measures.
Yeah.
And what I've found, at least, is that with my experience, at least, is that those things you go through do benefit you in the long term, just in a way of it can influence your art a lot and bring out different things inside of you that you didn't know were there. A lot of pain can be turned into really beautiful things, I think, especially through writing, acting, all that sort of stuff, and it just can give you this new perspective on things maybe you didn't have when you go through just these different things. Any experience in life can be turned into fuel for your art. So
Absolutely. And I think one of the most important phrases that you used there was saying that you didn't know was in there. And I think it took me too long to realize that it was in there without substances and without, I don't know, without that type of seeking.
right.
You know,
Okay, well,
It's
I
in
would like
there
to jump off of that. So what advice do you have for people who are looking for that creative spark to help them maybe avoid some of the pitfalls you found yourself in? What can you tell people?
I think a lot of it is about, honestly, it's the daytime. There's some belief that you have to go to bars and late night shows and have that type of experience in order to find the grit in life. But you see the work that artists who have already been through that out in the public, professionally, in the daytime. You know, you go to museums or art galleries and see a visual representation of that same journey that people had in the 1700s, you know?
Right.
People have been having this same torture. And if you keep social, and it's hard to do, but yeah, and it sounds just like a phrase, but it really is more. Is to stay true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It took me time, and I knew the whole time. Like looking back on it, the whole time I had a voice telling me that I was wrong, and that I needed to change, but I wasn't strong enough to listen. And I know, still looking back on it, that I was aware of my core. Within me, there was, and still is, this deeper, solid core that knew the type of person I wanted to be in the world. And I wouldn't honor it for so long for some reason. I didn't respect myself enough.
Okay.
Yoga, I think, helped. Silence.
Yeah, meditation.
Really important.
We talk about meditation. Yeah.
I meditated last night. I forgot to tell you.
Oh, amazing!
She's been telling me to do it over and over, and I did it once just with her, and I really liked it. But then, without her like next to me saying you need to meditate, it's kind of like I'd rather
meditate now.
I'd rather play Minecraft than meditate. But I just decided to last night. It was very, very nice. Anyway, sorry.
Well, no, that's good. There's a temple in town. I cannot remember the name of it. It's off Florida Boulevard.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay.
And I go some. I haven't been since last year, but I'm dying to go again. They have guided meditations. Some nights they do in English. The majority of it is Vietnamese because that's the majority of their culture.
That's cool.
So it's a Buddhist temple. Then I would totally suggest going. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll all go together.
Johnny loves to go. I think Friday night's the night we mostly went.
Yeah, I think I've gone twice with my friend Bonnie, and I think it was a Friday.
We should definitely do that.
Yes. All right. Now we got some plans.
Okay, yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
And it's all entertaining.
It really is. Now I'm going to come back to something you said.
We're gonna pass out our business cards there.
Yes, we can. Oh, we got business cards, y'all. We got business cards. We're so excited. Woo! Okay. So, I want to talk to Leicester about the fact that he looks back and knows that there's a core inside of him, a voice that is guiding him in the right direction. And he ignored it and felt like he wasn't strong enough to listen to it. So if you could give yourself at that age advice, is there something that you wish you had done differently, or are you glad that things worked out the way they did? I know it's kind of a double-edged question, but how can you speak to that?
It is both.
Right.
It's both. I deeply believe I wouldn't be the person that I am today without all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I could have made some progress, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's professional progress or personal, psychological progress. I don't know what that is, but I know that in some way my life could have a different foundation if I had started that work earlier.
Well, before the podcast, I was talking to Leicester about our mission, which is to help people express their creativity so that they can share their gifts with the world and to be free from the fear of judgment, because we all know that judgment is always a thing. And I feel like what you're saying is that you were judging yourself so harshly. And were you feeling judged by others?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hesitate to even talk about this, but I think a lot of it has to do with growing up as a gay person. Right now, of course, it's still hard for gay people, but not nearly as hard as it was when I was younger. And my journey was nothing compared to the people that were 15 years before me.
That's
so,
true.
I do still struggle with a certain degree of internalized homophobia that makes me self-conscious and have a little bit of sometimes dislike of myself.
Well, there are obviously places that you would not be able to get a job still.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm very careful. Right now, we haven't gotten here yet.
Well, we'll jump ahead, yes.
So I work at a public school right now, and Louisiana is a right-to-work state, which means, and I've been, reminded by a letter every year, that I can be let go at any time for any or no reason. And that includes my sexuality. Right.
And do you feel like that is something that might be changing? Is there legislation at all that you're aware of?
I don't know if legislation is in the pipeline,
right.
in this state.
Right.
But I do know the culture of the schools is changing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
My principal, for instance, watched Pose, the show about the Vogue culture in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what channel it's on, but it's got a lot of transgendered and drag queens and homosexual people in a certain New York nightlife that are sort of the bedrock of a lot of the colloquialisms in modern gay culture. And, you know, she's in school quoting, you know, lines from Pose and from RuPaul's Drag Race, and it's something that's permeating our culture because of important figures like RuPaul, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who are bringing our culture into the daytime.
Yes, there it is. Into the daytime.
My
Right.
young self believed that we had to be at night.
That's what happened. Yeah.
So one of the big things we focus on here at Stay Creative is using your unique gifts, talent, creativity to benefit the world. And I would say, and I hope everyone listening agrees, that battling homophobia is a good thing to bring to the world. So are there any particular movies, forms of art, shows, anything that comes to your mind when thinking about art that has been used to, like you just said, like your principal watched Pose. Is there anything else like that that you think has really influenced the world in a good way like that, and that you might encourage people to watch and that inspired you also?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, there are a lot of things in mainstream culture that I think people are aware of, like Modern Family. You know, they incorporate the gay couple with their adopted child into their thing, and a lot of people in the gay culture have issues with the way the gay culture is represented in gay culture. Like even now, RuPaul isn't subversive enough for some gay people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we can get married now. Some people don't like that, which is ridiculous. You know, I'm engaged now, and I'm so excited to finally be a voice of data, you know, in the married world, in paper form, sitting in a file somewhere in the state of Louisiana, you know, it matters. So there's that stuff that people I think know about, but I can mention when I first moved to New York, there was a play that I saw that has become one of the most important plays, and most frequently done plays in the school culture. You guys might have heard of it. John Ciriani's Almost Maine.
I don't know if I have. Have you heard of that one?
No, I don't think
I
so.
think I heard recently from a local person that's doing a lot of cool stuff, Jamie Hip. She owns a company called Arts Are Hip. And she said that it is or was the most produced play in schools.
Wow.
And it's a series of scenes with two people. And I think each couple does two scenes. You see them at one place in the beginning, then you see them at another place in the second scene. And all of the relationships are straight, you know, normal relationships except for one. And it's not even a relationship, it's a guy. They're in Almost Maine, you know, so it's a bunch of northern snow dwelling folks that are at bars drinking the PBR of Maine, whatever that is. And Old Molson is a Canadian beer. Anyway, I love the play, but a guy literally falls down over and over and can't stand up when he's realizing that he's falling for another man.
Oh.
There's a great deal of what would you call it, symbolism
Okay.
in this play. It's very touching. Each scene has to do with some level of the heart. And there's one scene with a girl that is walking around with her broken heart in a paper bag.
Oh my goodness.
Just beautiful stuff. Makes you cry for sure.
Wow. We will have to look into this. I've never heard of that before.
And I think that that's one way in. You know, you see this whole show, and a part of it is is watching somebody deal with that on his own, and it's in a story that otherwise is mainstream and normal and you can digest. So you see that at the same time, this gay story, and it makes it less bizarre and more reachable.
Right.
There's another playwright, Daniel Talbot, who is a big name in New York, and is becoming more famous now, I believe. But he wrote a play called Slipping, which, for me, it was similarly touching. And it was about a younger person grappling with his sexual interests as well. So, as far as I wanted to make sure to bring written plays into the conversation rather than just what we're seeing on TV and film. I'm sure there's many more.
Right. Well, I don't know if you watched Stranger Things.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you see the most recent season?
Yes.
And I know Donna did. I did too. I think what a really great. This is one of my favorite. Now I'm not homosexual, so I can't really speak for that. But this was one of my, at least from my point of view, one of my favorite representations of a homosexual character in art was Robin at the end of the season. Spoilers. This isn't a big spoiler, but it's not a huge spoiler. But
fast forward if you haven't seen it.
yeah, it's just at the end of the season you find out that she is a lesbian, and I had a conversation with my boss about this because she brought it up and she couldn't quite put her finger on why she liked that so much. And I think what I really liked about it was that you spent an entire 8 episodes learning about her with having no idea that this was her sexuality. So you come to love her as a character for all these other reasons, and then you find out, oh, and she happens to be a lesbian.
That's awesome.
And it has nothing to do with, I think a lot of times, and I don't think this is necessarily a problem. I don't see it as an issue, but I think of maybe a reason that a lot of gay characters don't get through to people who might be against that, or people might get annoyed by all the gay characters you see in media. It's because I think a lot of times these characters can be made the token gay character.
Oh, yes.
And I see where that comes from, because it's you want whoever's creating that art wants to put a gay character in there and say, look at this character, and they want to have that representation. I think it's important to have that representation, but I guess maybe they get a little too excited, like here it is, but then they kind of, you need to make sure you're developing that character to show that it is a person, because obviously you are people, and
absolutely,
yeah, and if you don't make the character a character who happens to be gay, but if you make him the token gay character, I think it can annoy people irrationally, or irrationally annoy people, I should clarify, but I think that's maybe why it doesn't always connect or resonate how it's supposed to, how it's expected to.
It's like all it does is amplify the misconception.
Yes, exactly.
The stereotypes.
Yeah. Right. The stereotype. Like, because Robin, you had no idea.
Right.
You had no idea. But then you look back at the season and it doesn't change anything about it. It's just a thing that she is. And I loved that. That really stood out to me as like, wow, that was really freaking cool when that happened.
And I think another thing is to, for lack of a better way to say it, to out all of the important historical figures in our culture that are gay, that we just put a blind eye to. The whole country, our whole culture closets all these people, but we still, love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if all of these people in Louisiana could know that actually this person's a flaming queer.
Yeah. I specifically remember as my sophomore year of high school, and we were learning about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and somebody in the class, I don't even remember how this conversation got brought up, but somebody in the class asked the teacher, he said, so like, what happened back in this time period, like hundreds of years ago, if you came out as gay? and she literally said, not, this blows my mind, but she literally said, oh, people just weren't gay back then. And I was, excuse me, actually, I don't think that's true. And she was like, well, I mean, this wasn't a thing. People weren't gay. It's like, uh-huh. Okay. Sure. Yes. Whatever. I wasn't even like, I'm not even gonna fight about it. Whatever. Just not worth it. But that just blew my mind that people think that. That somebody it's insane to me that she said that. I was like,
okay.
How can you think that way? It's mind-blowing.
And there's really important pieces of literature that represent the gay identity, but we, in productions, in professional productions, don't honor that. And that upsets me personally. Like when somebody does a Tennessee Williams production, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, for instance, Brick, the Brick shithouse character, who's the male hero or love lead, you know, there's a monologue further in the play where it is made clear that he has a tortured and troubled relationship with this old friend of his, who I think, I might be remembering this wrong, I think he's dead now. He is. Yes, he's dead now. But you learn through the language that he in fact might be in love with this old friend, and that's where his alcoholism comes from. That's what this, you know, limp is that he has. Shakespeare has gay characters written into his plays, but it's not honored. There are plays that just simply aren't done of Shakespeare's because people don't know how to direct that in front of a mainstream audience because they fear that they will lose money. They fear people won't come.
Well, I have to make a comment. So I used to, when we would write plays, let's see, what was the one we did? SOS at, I don't remember the name of the theater, but we did a play about a director working with some kids doing Shakespeare. And I just kept saying, oh, he's the gay guy, and just, you know, be flamboyant, and the gay guy's always funny. And I said that one time when I was directing with a co-director, and he's like, no, we're not going to have a gay guy. And I'm like, well, I don't mean, I guess what I mean is flamboyant. And I really kind of like, kind of slapped my own mouth out, oops, because I didn't mean it that way. I meant it's funny, you know, the flamboyant and everybody sees the stereotype. And, you know, we deal in so many stereotypes on stage. And I just was trying to get across how I wanted the character to be. And I meant flamboyant. You can certainly be flamboyant and not gay, or gay and not flamboyant. Yeah. But I was saying it in a way that really was offensive. And I didn't even realize it. As accepting as I try to be, I think that it is a hard thing to even realize that you say or do or think.
I struggle with that too, especially as a teacher of young students. In the theater, we have to wait. At some point, you have to think in form of archetypes and in broad strokes.
Yes.
And it can be limiting to be too politically correct and in a box when we're in process, when we're in a creative process. We've got to be able to make those mistakes so that we can go somewhere else.
Yes.
You know? That's something that I haven't quite figured out how to navigate yet. Like, it's the same thing as teaching cultural differences as a white man.
Yes.
Honoring a cultural difference.
You're right.
Without, you know, bridging into cultural appropriation or making oblivious, offensive statements.
Correct.
You know?
And at the same time, you don't want to put yourself in a box of being too politically correct and not even acknowledging. Maybe I could see a scenario where there is a gay character on stage, but then somebody could say, well, we're not going to point out that he's gay because we're being politically correct. You know, like you twist it around, like you could take it too far and be like, well, because we're politically correct, we're not even going to acknowledge that he's gay because that would be offensive to call the flamboyant character gay.
Right.
But at the same time, people could say that it's not being politically correct enough if you're not calling the flamboyant character gay. It's a really hard balance to find, and I have no idea how I would do it. So, good luck trying to balance that. And
yeah, I mean, I think just talking further on that, I think it has to do with figuring out why a person presents the way that they do. So it's not about are they gay. It's if they're flamboyant, what is it that's making this person have that physical choice? What is it that makes this person's voice live where it is? And I don't know any answers to that yet. Like, sometimes it's a mask. But again, like you have to be able to go to the broad stroke first and see how it feels.
Right. Now, how old are your students?
My youngest student is second grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I go, right now I have 2 through 5.
Okay. How many schools are you working with this year?
2 schools.
2 schools.
Yes.
So we're going to jump ahead. Time warp.
Yeah.
So talk to us. No, we do have to go back and touch on some of your
course.
in between. But
Yeah.
you became a teacher last year.
I became a teacher.
Or was it 2 years ago?
Well, I became a teacher in the system. That was 2017.
And that was the year you were a senior. No, 2017-18.
2017-18 was when I was senior.
Yes,
Yeah.
17-18.
Right. So yeah. So this is your 3rd year working in the schools.
Yes.
And so you now have all the certification and all fun
Yes.
stuff. Okay.
Prior to that, I had started teaching, I guess, in 2009 in New York.
Okay.
I started my first teaching job. It was an itinerant company that was contracted out to various schools called Take Two Film Academy. And what we would do is go to certain classes for a certain number of weeks and either in the middle of the day or after school and guide them through the process of creating a film.
Okay.
So we started with what story, why, scripting, storyboarding, and then filming.
Wow.
Really, just one of the most enjoyable things I've done as a teacher.
So that was really your first time being a teacher.
Yeah.
Is that what made you realize you wanted to continue teaching?
It actually is, yeah. I was doing that, and simultaneously I was, catering and bartending. And I was a house cleaner in New York. I was a maid. And keeping down as many jobs as I could to pay my rent, and auditioning, of course, at the same time, and doing a lot of plays for free. I loved doing that, and I knew that I wanted more for my life, especially like to involve more creativity rather than just getting money from the practical world, right? And I started looking for more teaching jobs and just kept hitting brick walls.
Oh.
I only had my bachelor's degree from LSU, and I've just, the more and more I looked into it, the more plays I went to see, and the more teachers I researched or talked to, the more I realized everybody had a master's degree.
Yeah.
So I decided to start applying for my master's degree while I was teaching at Take Two Film Academy. And unfortunately, I was only with them for 1 year because I got an acting coach to prepare for auditions for my schools, applied, and got accepted to a school just within that 1 year, which is pretty good. Most people, or not most people, but I mean, frequently you wind up having to go back and try again multiple years in a row.
And I wrote you a recommendation letter.
That's very true.
I remember writing it. I was like, I have to talk about what we did together.
Yeah.
You went to Brown.
I went to Brown University.
Okay, well, talk about that a little bit.
It's a 3-year program. The actual name is Brown University Trinity Rep MFA Acting Program.
Whoa.
In acting and directing.
You did 3 different certificates just for the name.
So, to break that down for you, Brown University is an Ivy League college in Providence, Trinity Repertory Company is the oldest running repertory company in the country, I believe.
Oh, wow.
The difference between a repertory company and a regular company is that a repertory company has a full staff of salaried year-round actors that they've paid a salary to or are paying a salary to in exchange for various performances throughout the year, sometimes many different shows overlapping and playing different roles throughout the month. They partnered with Brown to have, they actually already had a non-accredited acting school out of Trinity Rep, and then we're doing pretty well with that and wound up joining with Brown and created this program.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of the things you did while you were there?
So we had acting classes taught by the actors from the repertory company. So I guess the head of the acting program was Brian McElhaney. He's the one that taught us most of the classes. He had been an actor with Trinity Rep for probably 20 years or more. All of these artists, it was really inspiring actually. All of these artists had bought homes and cars and had children and
they had a normal life supported by their art.
Lives that you just couldn't see other artists having anywhere. And the artistic, Brian McElhaney was married to Stephen Berenson, who was also a company member, who also taught some acting classes, mostly more in style, like Moliere and Chekhov, older period types of playwrights. And the artistic director of the company was a guy named Kurt Columbus, who was also married to a man, Nate, who was a flight attendant, and didn't have anything to do with the program, but he was around all the time. Two great guys. Kurt Columbus taught us more like professional development classes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he said in his classes was to go where you can grow your garden. A lot of young artists actors especially, are really hyped up about New York in a straight line to commercial success. And, myself included, even though when I went to grad school, I had already decided that I really wanted to focus more on education and finding a different path that would be more whole for me. Mm-hmm. But I still got lost while in grad school in that straight line fiery pursuit of commercial success. But he was a good reminder that every region has something wonderful to offer and a great community of people. And so to go where you can grow your garden, and I'm happy to say that now I live in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. I still feel like an artist. I have bought a house and I have this great garden and I've got a car and a fiance and 2 dogs. And I feel like I am growing the garden that I've always wanted. And who the hell knew it would be in Baton Rouge?
You came back.
Yeah, I came back home to where the heart is.
So you continue to act because you acted this summer.
Yes. After I got out of school, as I said, I got lost in that commercial pursuit. My first idea was to go right back to New York. And I went right back to all the same jobs that I had because it was all I knew. I knew I needed to make money fast so that I could keep paying rent and hopefully find artistic representation and get some good acting jobs. And I was just so unhappy back in New York. Even going to auditions, even meeting these people in the industry, mm-hmm. It was so disappointing. All the conversations I had just kept disappointing me, So
did you know that you were not following your passion?
I did.
You did.
You're right. Yes, I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly right. That same conversation with that core mm-hmm. came back, and it wasn't substance abuse. It was like psychological abuse. You know, I wasn't allowing myself to be happy. I was torturing myself.
So do you know why you were so set on the idea of commercial success?
I was afraid of perception. I was afraid of what it would look like on the outside if I didn't have like a career.
To be a recognizable face in the industry.
Yeah, I
that kind of
guess
thing.
so. Yeah, to leave a program like the Brown University Trinity Rep program, which is in competition with Yale and Harvard, and to have some of the guest speakers that we had so many wonderful people come and guide classes. A lot of wonderful actors had come out of the program already. You know, one of our movement people was Shura Baryshnikov, who's the daughter of Baryshnikov and Jessica Lange.
Wow.
You know,
that blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was really, really worth their salt, you know.
And so you thought you would not represent the program well if you didn't go on to huge fame.
Yeah, I thought I wouldn't represent myself well. And you know, there's another funny thing. I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. It's like, it's almost like I was afraid to really give myself a chance. I don't know.
A chance at what you wanted, or a chance at the fame or the success?
I think it's actually more vulnerable and more a test of your worth to go small,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
to go to the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
New York is a known pathway,
Right.
where it's a puzzle. You know all the pieces, and you can skip around on all of them for an eternity. You know, and a lot of actors are doing it.
Oh yeah. Questions? We could talk about
no, please.
Sorry.
I am interested. I'm like listening.
I do have another question.
Yeah.
And I think I've asked you this before. So you do still have an agent?
I do. I have a local agent.
Okay, so
Yes.
if like prime role, huge movie came up, you were perfect for it, would you even go audition?
It would depend.
Right.
There's been a lot of hype about the way that the film industry is coming to Louisiana.
Yes.
A lot of it is just hype.
Well, I mean, there have been quite a few movies made.
There have been quite a few. A lot of the acting opportunities aren't for local people.
Yeah.
A lot of the production jobs are for local people,
Right.
and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a disconnect when it comes to the performers. You know, young actors are starving for a job, and will do almost anything for a job, and that is taken advantage of left and right in the industry. Definitely in theater, but even more so in the film industry. So it would really have to be a good role. And I'm happy to say that the school system here has been surprisingly flexible, generous, and supportive of extracurricular work.
Okay.
They want me to continue to be a satisfied artist and bring that life to my kids.
That's amazing.
So like last year I took some professional development days to do plays. This year in 2 weeks I'm going to Africa with a company that
that's what you have to talk about.
Yes.
So that's Stories for Strength.
Stories for Strength.
Okay.
Yes.
So talk to us all about that.
So it's a relatively new company. It was started up by a fellow alum of the Brown Trinity program, Annie Warden. She's based in Los Angeles. she has previously done a lot of this type of work in Madagascar. I moved back to Louisiana at the beginning of 2017, and she was just cobbling the company together and had a first trip designed to Cambodia. That was a collaboration with the local children's hospital and an orphanage, Alien Myth Orphanage. The children's hospital had, I think it was 15 teenagers that were born HIV positive, and the orphanage had, I think, about 30 kids. And there were a lot of question marks for her. This was her first solo venture doing it. And I swear to God, did not expect to get to join the company doing this. But I emailed her just to say, wow, I'm so impressed with this idea. As I've left school and learned more about the industry and figured out what path I want for myself, I'm really inspired with the choices you're making and what's possible as an artist, you know? And I was like, if there's anything I can do remotely, let me know. You know,
she took advantage
I was
of
like,
that.
I can try to write a grant, I can, you know, make phone calls. And then she might have called me back, or I don't know if it was an email, and was like, okay, do you want to come? And I just, you know, couldn't believe it.
Yes, I do.
And I just left one of the worst years, probably the worst year of my life in Seattle. It was just,
you needed a change.
it was incredibly depressing. And this was like a month after I moved back home. And it just felt like, oh my God, the right things are happening. Again, listening to the core, right?
Yes, let it guide you.
Yeah, it was just right. So I went with them. It was me, Annie, her boyfriend, Matt, and another female, Christine Stuick. And we went there and we put together a clown show to perform at the hospital and to be taken to satellite locations of the hospital that were intended to encourage different types of hygiene that aren't very popular in Eastern culture, especially in Middle Eastern culture. So we had silly clown shows showing people how to brush their teeth and use toothpaste and how to wear certain clothing, you know. It was silly, a lot of fun, so far jokes, but I think it also served a greater purpose.
So you performed and the children performed?
So we performed at the hospital.
Okay.
And then, like, while there was, you know, a woman giving birth right there. In fact, while we were doing one of the clown shows in the satellite hospital, a doctor ran through with a brand new baby from one building to the other to have its, like, blood work together.
Wow.
It was totally a unique world. It just changed my life. So we did that type of performing, and that was usually in the morning. And then after the morning session of that type of work, we would go to the orphanage, and where we worked for, I think it was 3 weeks, it was either 3 or 5 weeks. We worked with them to help them put together a unique piece of theater in their own language, using music that they had written themselves and a storyline that they put together themselves, and costumes that they would help make, you know, or help design. The idea being that this would liberate them, liberate their minds and what they feel they're capable of, unlock hidden creativity, and help them find their core, right? Their core that they haven't been allowed to get in touch with yet.
Their unique gifts that they can share with the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then in turn, the goal was to have them perform that piece for their community, a community that has always done things for them.
Oh, okay.
Who have always been in a position of receiving rather than giving. So the orphans were finally put in a position to give something back to the community, which is very empowering.
Absolutely. It made them feel like they have a purpose, that they're not just leeches.
Yes.
That's so amazing.
Art can do so much. Sharing your creativity can really do so much. It's so important in the world. And it sounds like you did what we're trying to do, to give people an avenue to express these things that they feel, and that they that are, to unlock these things that are inside their core, like you've been saying. And I think just want to clarify to all the listeners that this whole podcast, some of these conversations might seem off track, but I 100% disagree. I think that they're creative. I think they're very important to talk about how art can influence people's lives, how it can affect, how it can help people deal with their struggles of being a homosexual in a world where they can be very often oppressed, and how when you bring things like, yes, it's important to bring people education and textbooks to those countries, but if you're also bringing them things like this, then you're giving them a real life. These experiences that they will not be able to get anywhere else. It's experiences just as important. And the sharing, being able to share those kinds of things with the world is something we really want to do here too. So we can put that on our big dreams. Go to a
yes.
Well, me and Donna have a big dreams Word document. It's just a list of all the big things we want to do. And I think that's a very worthy inclusion. I didn't think about that till now, but that'd be great.
We'll join Leicester when he goes, maybe not this time.
Partner with Stories for Strength, for sure.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to wrap this one up. We have so much to say. We'll probably record more with Leicester, but let's see if we have any closing thoughts. Was something you want to end with?
Geez, I mean,
any tips, anything important to say to
Sure. I mean, I'll just first capitalize on something you were just saying, which is that, to me, it's that is what the arts are all about. And I think too many people, especially today, with the type of culture that we have in entertainment, think about arts as a celebrity culture, as a money star culture, tabloid culture. But that's what made me so unhappy in New York, was actually hoping to, be on TV with a bag of Fritos so that I could finally get a paycheck from being on TV. You know what I mean?
I do.
That actually wound up hurting my soul. And then doing this type of work that I do with kids every day for less than I would make for one day of work on a commercial, it actually gives me energy. I actually feel good about my life, And
that's
doing
more
these
valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing these outreach trips that aren't about money at all remind me of what I loved about the arts in the first place. So
what is the saying? Grow your garden.
Go where you can grow your garden.
Go where you can grow your garden. So we are so happy. I know I am. Lester told me he was coming home. So happy to have him back and to have him as a teacher. And we've helped each other so much. So you've helped me. I haven't helped you, but with your classes.
Oh, that's not true. Yeah.
Well,
you've been helping me since 1996 with my classes.
Well, maybe in the next podcast you can talk all about that. I guess I haven't gone to his school and worked with his students, but he has come to work with mine, so that's always very exciting and wonderful for me. So my closing thoughts for today are: I'm so happy to have the long years of experience I have so that I can see my students go on to become the wonderful people that they are. And Leicester has always been one of the top on that list. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you.
My closing thoughts, I'd say that this is what Creative Conversations with David and Donna is all about, and what Stay Creative is all about, these inspiring stories. And so if you, the listener, have anything that you'd like to share with us, anything about your creativity or any stories about how you've help inspire others, or things that you've done that brought joy to your soul, and how other people can use their creativity in that way, please send it to us at davidanddonnacreative@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Anything you have to share with the world, we want to share it for you. We want to help you. We're not looking to pick out what's going to look the best on our show. We want to share everything. So please send that to us. So Lester, where can our viewers find you?
I actually removed my website because that was part of my moving away from the commercial line. So I don't have a website anymore. I am on Facebook, but I'm probably hard to find because I limit my things because I have children. I don't know. You can find Stories for Strength.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Stories, 4strength.org.
I'll leave a link in the description.
Yeah, you can make a tax deductible donation
Yes.
to support the work that we do if you like. I also am a member of Williams Project in Seattle, another company that's doing great things for their community through art. So you can help them out as well.
Sounds terrific. So
Awesome.
we're ready to wrap up?
I think we are. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Creative Conversations with David and Donna. I'm David.
I'm Donna.
I'm Lester.
And stay creative.